Now what I want to do is now here, right, now things get a little bit more interesting. Now we actually have two troughs, and actually we have a little bit of a split in the jet stream. So I'm going to bring this back up, and here's split number one. So here, right, back up and through here, and through here, this is the northern jet stream, okay? And back down through here, I'm going to highlight this green. Everything south of this line, or south of the blue line. Yeah, I'll just do this. Okay. All right, that's the southern jet stream. So now we have two pieces of the jet stream, the northern jet stream and the southern jet stream. And right here in the middle, this is where the two of them could meet up and exchange pieces of energy. So this is important. So this is what I want to see. This is what I want to focus on in the next upcoming days. So this is Friday afternoon, 2 o'clock. Again, nothing's going on in the Boston area. I have two waves of low pressure that I'm watching. So now I'm going to move them forward in time. Okay? Now look at what happens. Okay? Here, I'm going to bring this back up so I can draw. Here, what do I have? Okay? Here is my trough axis. Back here. You also have another small one just west of Michigan. So here I should have an area of low pressure developing off of the Delmarva Peninsula. Okay? So this is significant. And this also might be a little bit something that moves north of New England. See how it follows the northern jet stream? So this should move north of us if it's going to be anything. Okay? But here in the southern jet stream, this low pressure system, look at the southern jet stream. Okay? Look at the way the isobars flow. Remember, this is 500 millibars, and wind at this height will flow parallel to these isobars, like so. And our jet stream in the United States, remember, moves from west to east. So here, I have two jet streams, a northern and a southern, and I have a nice piece of energy with a nice almost inverted trough here, and this area is where I want to look for, I'm going to just write this in green, this area right here is where I want to look for my low pressure system developing, okay? Now, I've only looked at 500 millibars here. I haven't determined any kind of low pressure systems. I haven't looked at winds. I haven't looked at temperatures, nothing like that. I'm just forming a bias right now, okay? So to keep that in mind, I'm going to close this. Now we move forward in time a little bit, okay? And now, this is Saturday mid-morning. This is 15 Zulu, but let's back this up a little bit, okay? And let's go here. Now, this is Saturday early morning, pre-dawn hours, 4 a.m., Saturday, okay? Bring this back up, just like so. And look what you have. We're going to red again. Here's your trough axis. Where should the low be? Right in through here. Your low should be right offshore. But it looks like it could be close enough that it could clip the south coast of Connecticut, Rhode Island, and Massachusetts. So this may be a snowmaker. And back in through here, remember, this is the northern jet stream. Here's the southern jet stream, okay? This could be something, again, but it moves north of New England. So for me, if this is anything, and I'll have to look at the surface, if this is anything, it looks to move north of New England. And it still doesn't necessarily look like a threat. But this looks like it could be a weak coastal system if a low pressure system just develops and the jet stream or the upper level winds bring it very, very close to the south coast. And as we move through time here, now this is 15Z, so this is mid-morning on Saturday, you can see that the trough is right parallel or more or less parallel with Boston. That means that this system has now already moved off. So if this is anything, this is going to be a early morning system on Saturday for Boston, March 1st. Not March 1st, sorry, March 2nd, 2015. I get all my dates mixed up. But this is something to watch, okay? Now this is only in the next couple of days. After that, okay, here's that piece of energy that moves on through, right? But I don't think this is necessarily going to be anything because look, see how two waves of energy, this one back by the Great Lakes and this one that we've been talking about for the last couple minutes, as the one that's closest to us moves just south of New England and goes up into the Canadian Maritimes, these two almost join up, okay? But I don't think it really causes any impact. It mainly will just spin off and just become another strong low pressure system up in the Canadian Maritimes, all right? Now after that, okay, it looks to dry out again, but now look what we have. Let's look at the bigger picture one more time. Get the drawing pad back up. Here, right, we still have two jet streams. We have one, and then we have two. We have two jet streams. Or you can look at this as a whole. You can also do the same thing. All right? Don't get caught up with the northern jet stream and the southern jet stream. Don't get so caught up in that. Just try to look at the entire picture, okay? But then look, what do we have? Here is our trough, right back in through here. See how the low of the trough basically cuts through the center of the country? And now look, now you have an area of low pressure, okay, that develops on the right side of the trough. High pressure should be back up and through here. And look, where is the jet stream pivoting? It's pivoting right to the northeast. So now we know that anything that develops down through here is actually going to traverse across the rest of the country and pass right through New England. Now, will this happen? We don't know. This is a couple days out, but this is something to watch. Now, this is Monday, okay? So if I was making a forecast for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, Monday would be out of the time frame. However, this is a little bit interesting to note, okay? But this is how you decipher using an upper level map. You know who should be colder than normal, you know who should be warmer than normal, and you know who is going to be experiencing high pressure and low pressure. So this is a great place to form a bias. Now, there really isn't any big troughs here, but this is an active jet stream, especially for New England. Why? Because any low pressure systems that come through are going to move right through the northeast. But if I really go forward and we go all the way out to 2 weeks, which is fantasy land in the meteorology world, now look what you have. You have a much better pattern change, especially for us in the northeast, where here, one more time with the drawing pad, here, right, here is your trough, and this is your ridge back up and through here. So you know that you should have high pressure. It should be warmer. I can't draw. Warmer. It's cold up and through here. All right. So on and so forth. All right. So that's how you use your upper level maps.